The following video has been created without the use of AI. Please support your human content creators by liking the video and commenting something down below. Subscribing is optional. Now please, enjoy the show.
3, 2, 1. Lazarus Program 2 initiated.
The noise of pipes echoed through the blood-covered halls as liquids and gases were pushed through them.
Activating Subject 2222-A.
A single twitch was all that was needed.
Life signs detected. Lazarus Program 2 continuation authorized.
Old machines awoke. Flickering screens and electronics that shouldn't be working anymore came alive.
Warning, mental stabilizer not found. Rerouting.
Of course, after the explosions and the foundation, the destruction the prototype left in its wake, there were a few things amiss.
Error.
Errors were to be expected.
Error.
Just maybe not that many.
Memory authorization granted.
The machines went still for a moment, as only a singular TV screen began to flash images.
Error. Aborting Lazarus Program 2. Initiating Lazarus 3.
And sometimes a helping hand was needed elsewhere.
Warning. Subject 2222-B is unstable. Alternative methods recommended.
But there was no one left to change things now. More liquids were pushed through the leaky systems of the electronic underbelly. A desperate move by the system.
Subject 2222-B, Marionetta, initiating awakening sequence.
The first thing that you felt when you woke up was a headache. In fact, it was so head-splitting, you began slamming your face against the concrete until the noise of a cracking porcelain face gave you a feeling of pressure release. Placing your hands on the floor, you pushed up your body. Shards dropping off from your face. Blood dripping past the cracks. The next thing you felt was hunger. And from somewhere, the noise of a pipe opening itself was heard. Curious, you tilted your head, as moments later, a little Baba Chops fell through it. She was alive, somewhat, quite malnourished, having been captured by the doctor a few days ago after the last bait had died of starvation. And as Baba made eye contact with you, despite your size difference, she went on the offensive, running forward on all fours. And as the devil critter came forward, your body turned as it awoke, your limbs creaking, twisting into the form of a four-legged spider. And so the two predators clashed. Your heavy, tall porcelain body was strong but slow, and the critter made out of cotton. Most of your blows seemed to not stop the thing in its tracks, at least not until you managed to wrap your hand around its little neck, and you crushed it. Disappointed, you stared at it, its head uselessly flopping to the side. Your right eye twitched. This was too easy. How dare your toy break so easily? And that's when your stomach growled. Right, you were hungry. How could you forget that? Your sharp fingers tore through Baba, exposing her precious flesh and organs to your hungering jaws. Teeth sinking into the soft, bloody meat, tearing it to pieces, licking the bone and slurping the blood, covering your dress in a shower of red. You were a Marionetta, a prototype toy, ironically, that would have had hit store shelves if the Hour of Joy didn't have happened. leaving you and 2 others as the only existing proof of the doll's existence. And what a doll she was. What a doll you were. Intended as an edgy teenager alternative for the Poppy doll line, you had a tall, realistic body, visually based on female French mimes and maids. You wore a short skirt held up by white suspenders. The shirt you wore was striped black and white, while the lower half was black entirely. Knee-high striped socks and just the most adorable shiny black pumps covered your feet. A black beret was permanently attached to your head, and you had long black hair. The body beneath was, on the outside at least, appearing to be made out of white ceramic, taking inspiration of the chitin from insects to protect your soft insides. Of course, you also were anatomically correct to allow for biological functions. The soft bits around your chest and nether regions therefore had been covered by a white silicone shell instead of the hard, shiny ceramic. Dr. Sawyer saw you as the first of the next generation of bigger bodies toys. The only problem was that it seemed while the mental strain this new physique put on the brain was less excessive than the previous bigger bodies, it still was enough to leave very little of your personality left. As a human, you had been Dr. Patricia Lamb, his assistant. Oh, and what an assistant you had been. There was zero moral compass in your brain. You were obedient, practical, and worshipping Dr. Sawyer by the feet. And that's why he decided to put you into this masterpiece. Marionetta, the perfect assistant. After your meal, you allowed the blood to run down your arms as you orientated yourself. You finally could think, or well, something close to it. After all, you had orders, right? They were flashing on the screen behind you. Your body dripping wet, you approached the console. There was text and an image of a closed eye. That was his eye. You could tell. A photo. You will never forget these eyelashes. At a perfect, healthy length. You pressed your smashed face against the screen, leaving behind a bloody imprint as the electricity from the screen vibrated into your body and flesh. Wait, hushed a voice inside your head. Were that your thoughts? You pulled off the screen. Read, you said out loud, as if to order yourself. A curious finger pressed against your lower lip. You read the instructions. Lazarus Program 3. Those were the words he programmed into the machine. Your claws scratched over the glass. Authorized memories flared up inside your mind, and immediately you began typing in commands at a breakneck speed. Your eyes moving left to right as you read the necessary procedures to fulfill the Lazarus program. The mental stabilizer seemed to have run dry. Would explain why your thoughts were really difficult to grasp. About a third of the machinery was offline, which a quick look revealed that might be permanent. This place was in ruins. So improvisation was now on the platter. Improvisation that took many hours. And many little lines typed into the console to make the automatic system ignore certain safety procedures. Slowly you took a step back, and then you pressed enter. A voice coming from the PC.
Greetings, Marionetta. If you are hearing this, you have successfully played your part in initiating the Lazarus Program number 2. Meaning, Program 0 and 1 have failed due to unforeseen circumstances. I have recorded this in advance because I know you can be a little twitchy when you don't get enough praise. See me putting the necessary effort to remember this as said praise. You may take 5 seconds to gloat. Now that you are done, you need to do a very crucial job for me, so we can see each other again. You must retrieve my Lazarus body, a mechanical abomination made after my own design that is perfect for our needs. I needed to hide it from Leaf and his goons and construct it in secrecy, even when the prototype was breathing down my neck. That's why it is important that that thing is nowhere near the prison complex as you initiate the next step of the Lazarus program. All you have to do is place the new body beneath the vessel that once contained my brain and connect the wires above. Do you understand? Should the system be too damaged, you may or may not have to connect one of the other models to the lobe, but I'm positive that my abomination will work. I'm not going to wish you good luck, because you don't need good luck. It's your job, so do it.
The recording cut off, and you bit transfixed to it like it was the most beautiful poem being recited to you. A loud metallic sound followed by an even louder clank. It made you turn around. From what seemed to be a metal tube, something dark had emerged. It was lying limp on the floor. Curiously, you approached. It was a machine body, like the doppelganger automatons the doctors used in the past, but its machinery was more sensitive and complex. You inspected the delicate arms of the machine. They seemed to be made out of the same material as your own, just kept at a noir black. The body was dressed in a black coat with a large hood, big enough to cover the machine's TV head. It certainly was different to the usual doppelganger skeleton automatons, and your eyes widened as you unbuttoned the coat and inspected the body further. "Oh, Doctor, was this for me?" You giggled like a schoolgirl. The chest and legs of the machine were quite detailed. There even was an appendage on the machine's lower half. Ooh, the things you could do with it. No, you shook your head. Focus? Try to at least. Focus? You closed the black coat and crawled over to the body's shoulders, wrapping your arms beneath it. You've been dragging the heavy machine for the broken, dripping halls of the doctor's former containment unit. The darkness alleviated only by Spauer's flickering screens. In the past, you had been afraid of the dark, but now there was nothing scarier to you than a world without your doctor. The stinking, dusty darkness reeking of oil and decay. If you didn't have your mission, you'd just curl up and die. With blood, sweat, and tears, you managed to heave the heavy metal body into the central neural chamber, which... You needed a moment. You needed to breathe. There it stood. The machine which once contained the doctor's brain, his conscience. It was destroyed. You approached it, climbing on top of a frozen-in-time automaton to reach the glass which used to show off his pink, pulsating, brilliant brain. Teary-eyed, you bumped your head against the glass, embracing the empty, round metal container. In life, he never let you do this. He didn't want your breath staining his glass. After you allowed yourself a moment of mourning, it was time to initiate. Having finally caught yourself, you pulled the heavy machine beneath the metal globe. That's when you noticed the sockets on the back of the empty body's head. 6 in total. Just as many as there were loosely hanging from the brain's chamber. Would this really work? You wondered, reaching up, pulling at the wires, and to your surprise, they indeed extended. One by one, you inserted the cables into the machine, and stepping back, you were expecting the doctor to almost immediately jump up, greet you, and curse the prototype, but no. Maybe just a little bit more work? Curiously, you snuck around the machine, finding an interaction terminal. Its screen was cracked, but you could boot it up. And after typing in your credentials, the screen depicted a green smiley. As all the machinery came to life, lamps flickering on, computer fans beginning to spin, and the buzzing of living electronics, it was like an orchestra of technology. Your heart beat faster with the excitement of a little girl watching her father stuff her new Build-A-Buddy. And then one by one, as quickly as they turned on, the machines went silent again, leaving only the terminal to be alive, seemingly. A single line of text appeared. Finishing Lazarus' program. Yes, no. With a shaking hand, you press the Y button on the keyboard and then enter. The sound of the wires unhooking came from the globe as they fell out of it, hanging down the TV screen a bit like dreadlocks. And a moment later, a twitch, a shake, and then the screen of the TV head turned on, depicting a realistic eye. In awe, you fell on your knees as the mechanical abomination stood up, looking at its hands, and then turning them to fists. Quietly you stared, as the machine's head turned to face you, and then you heard his voice.
Marionetta.
It was so unbelievably difficult to not immediately jump up, interrupt him, hug him in this moment.
It appears I died, though that was expected. A contingency.
The doctor placed the hand on his head, brushing backwards in the same way he always did when he was in thought, until he reached the wires still stuck. Sighing, he pulled them out, one by one, before grabbing the hood of his cloak and throwing it over his square head. He then rubbed his hands. He approached you, though his gaze was transfixed on the empty metal globe. He stopped right next to you, admiring it.
I've stared at my chopped up pieces many times, when they still pulsed with life. It was comforting.
His head tilted towards you, covering you in the light of its screen.
Do you understand, Marionetta? That this,
He tapped his chest.
me, I am but a mere automaton that contains my personality and memories, at least the ones my living self considered necessary for me to function correctly and continue our work.
You nodded, but then reached up to the screen, your long fingers taking hold of the TV screen's rim. As long as I can hear you, and you can tell me what to do, Doctor, it's all I want.
I have in my memories your importance. But there's also something else, perhaps unintended.
Behind the mechanical eye, the automaton doctor, the automaton equipped with the doctor's memories, emotions, and desires, had a few modifications done to his personality. Strange. Not much, just there were a few additional lines of code that would allow the machine to give you preferential treatment, if, in return, it made you even more obedient. This included things his living self would have never done. Or, as the non-mechanical doctor would call it, he had the ability to turn off his cringe inhibitors, which would allow him to temporarily turn off his disgust and lower his standards just enough to consider emotional and physical compromise between you and him. Though the automaton didn't fully understand why. You seem to practically be begging to be controlled. Why would you need more of that? Oh, well, he was equipped with a functioning appendage. That was probably meant for long-term enjoyment, perhaps.
Marionetta,
He spoke gently as he petted your beret.
you have done me an excellent job, returning me to life.
He knelt down, his hand moving from your head to your cheek.
What happened to that pretty face of yours? I designed it to be immaculate.
It was cracked, sure, and a few of the ceramic shards had fallen out, but still about 90% of your face was still covered. My head hurt. I needed to think. There was just too much pressure on my brain.
The time and inactivity must have led to unintended issues and tissue growth. Very fascinating indeed. Don't worry, Marionetta. I shall make you a new one. But what about now? How do you feel now?
You placed both hands on the doctor's for comfort. All my pains are gone now that you're here. You're holding my hand, Doctor. The eye on the screen blinked before narrowing flirtatiously. His finger slid down your cheek, pushing against your chin, forcing you to look up at him. The doctor then moved his thumb against your lip. The cracked porcelain parted, showing the skinless jaw beneath, wet, sensitive, and painful. He placed his thumb on your tongue. You felt his soft silicone finger brush over your muscle, delightfully and gently. It was pushing down, rubbing, scratching, perfectly. Like a French kiss without a second mouth.
You're a good girl, Marionetta.
He pulled out from you. Immediately, you felt the emptiness in your throat.
You're the best assistant a scientist can ever have.
He held up your arms, going up and down the entire length of your body with his hands, pushing your suspenders aside, and pulled up your shirt.
You're my most graceful creation, Marionetta.
He mused. He pinched you, causing you to gasp and lean into his touch.
You have my permission to touch me.
Your eyes twitched as your eyes fell on the tent on his cloak. Hey, thank you for watching the video until the very end. If you managed to get this far, leave a comment with the word pickles below as our little secret. But before I say goodbye, I'd like to shout out all of my lovely high-tier channel members, aka Darling Stewards, for keeping me and this channel alive. We have Jaws, Melofia, Nicole Hatcher, Maxicat, Alison Watkins, Bella Mare, Mystic Jade 111, Giovanna Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, Hella, Anonymous Weep, and Nicodemus D. And lastly, I'd like to mention all my other supporters for being awesome, and thank you. I'm eternally grateful for all of your donations. Thank you, and goodbye.